Hi there and welcome back to my channel. I'm Lesa and today I'm looking like this because it's Halloween time. So I thought I would do the wrap up of the October month with the books that I read in a Halloween theme, kind of. So let's get into it. So October was a very eventful month for me because I've read a lot of books that I totally didn't expect to pull off. I am going to start with the first book of the month that I read transitioning into October, and I'm talking about, of course, The Mystery of Mercy Close by Marian, which is the fifth book in the Walsh Sisters series. And this one is talking about Helen. It's a really nice book, I really liked it. I gave it 4 stars on Goodreads. If you don't know anything about Marian Case or the books that she's writing about, well, this book is about a girl named Helen. She's in her 30s, the beginning of her 30s, and she is actually a PI, like private investigator, but she's really down on her luck. She doesn't really have any orders or anything, and that's when her ex-boyfriend approaches her with a task to find one of the band members, like a really popular band that is doing a reunion, and one of their key members disappeared. I really loved it. It was full of witty, cute humor, and it had its kind of sad moments too, which I really appreciated about the book. But what you need to know if you haven't picked up any of the series is that every book ties a bit to the other ones because they're all connected to the same family. So you should know that if you're going to read this book, you're going to get a little bit of spoiler about the very first book that got out. It was Watermelon, which I also read this month. Watermelon by Marian Case. So be ready that you're gonna be spoiled a bit of Claire's story, that's the oldest sister of the Walsh family, when you read the Helen story. So that said, let's get on to the next book. So the next book I started in October and I finished it is the first book of the Shannara trilogy, The Sword of Shannara, this giant tome that I'm holding right now. I only finished the first part because it's all 3, like it's really huge. So I finished The Sword of Shannara and I kind of liked it. I'm going to continue on with the series. This story starts when 2 brothers, Shea and Flick, were living in their tiny peaceful village, and a mysterious person, this huge giant looking silent type called Alanan, comes over and says that that Shea is in danger because he's a descendant of an ancient elven king family, and he has to kind of run for his life because the darkness is looking for him and all that stuff. And the only solution to the problems, like eradicating the darkness, is finding the Sword of Shannara, which was already stolen by the dark powers. So this basically is a book talking about the journey that Shea undertakes, and it has this really fun vibe to it because you really get to travel a lot and you get to meet all these other nations and people, and there's gnomes and there's also dwarves, which is totally different by the way, and the elves of course, and men, and the characters are really interesting. What I missed in this book was a heroine that was female. The second book has different main characters that we get to follow, and that one is actually full of female leads. Like Esther Brooks felt that he was missing that as well. So I'm really excited to hear what's gonna happen. If you haven't read the Sword of Shannara trilogy, you should definitely pick it up. Since the Shannara book was so heavy that I couldn't get it with me in metro and transport, that's actually why I read it in bedtime kind of style, so it took me a while to finish it. But meanwhile I was reading other easy to pick up books so that I could carry it with me, and this was a huge month for me, talking about Ursula Guin, of course. Haven't mentioned her yet on this channel, but this is going to change because I almost finished reading her Earthsea Cycle, and this is the month when I read books number 2 and 3. So it started with reading her second book of the Earthsea Cycle. It's called The Tombs of Atuan by Ursula Guin, The Farthest Shore, which is the third one in the series. I know it sounds very confusing, but I'm going to do a separate video about that cycle because this is my new favorite cycle. It's full of magic and it's set in a fantasy land and it's talking about growing up. The setting is magical. I mean, the magic is like it's leaking out of these books, and even when nothing is happening, it's just the atmosphere, it's breathtaking, absolutely breathtaking. I figured that if I'm gonna do a separate video only on this cycle, let me introduce something else that she wrote. So this is where this creepy looking book comes in. It's called Orsinian Tales by Ursula Guin, and I'm still in the middle of reading it, but I'm gonna include this in this video because I'm gonna finish it by tonight or tomorrow at most. So this is a set of short stories, and these are so thoroughly impressive. They're not set in a fantasy land. Orsinian tales are set in Orsinia, which is like imaginary European type of country, and I've read like 4 tales by now, and they're pretty short, like 10-20 pages each, and they're so full of life, and they're taking us different times, different places in history, and it's pretty amazing. I mean, this woman can handle short stories like no one. Her language is so captivating that you should just pick up and read a story, and then you'll understand that you want to go on, because this is incredible. I mean, she's touching on subjects like love, like social difficulties and all that. It sounds... It's much greater than I describe it, of course. It's absolutely wonderful. I'm gonna finish it very soon. This is definitely something that you'll enjoy, even if you don't like fantasy, because this is not fantasy. You feel like it's set in our world. So this is totally great. Pretty incredible. And this first story that's opening the book is called The Fountains, and it blew my mind. It absolutely blew my mind. It was gorgeous. So, promise me you'll read it? Okay, let's move on. This month I actually finished the $100 Startup by Guillebeau, which I mentioned in my haul like a month ago. So I give it 3 stars in Goodreads. Why is it that important? Because this book was nice, but was it great? I'm not so sure. So of course the title kind of gets the vibe that you can start your own business, and $100, it's not going to tell you how to do that. There is no shortcut to it. What basically this book is a study that Chris made. He talked with lots of entrepreneurs who started their businesses with different amounts of money, and the results of this study he kind of built into this book. So it goes like this. There's like an example of somebody's business when they talk about how they set up, what kind of difficulties they had to go through. So he put it into different chapters, so I would say. Like, he talks about what kind of ideas people had, how much time it took them to research that and all that, how did they market themselves. So it's full of examples, but at the same time, since he's so full of these examples, you don't really get what he has to say for himself. Because this is a study totally based on what other people have done, and it's pretty impressive. It gives you lots of motivation, lots of ideas, and honestly, if you have no clue what you want to do, if you're just new to the business idea and you're thinking, oh, it would be nice to start a business, then this is probably the motivation and some information that you actually need. But if you have a solid thought of your business, you'll probably get on fine without this book, because honestly, this is all pretty much common sense, although much needed common sense, especially for some people. So as I mentioned earlier, I also read the first novel of the Walsh Sisters series by Marian. It's called The Watermelon, and I read it on my iPad. The book is really awesome. It's talking about Claire, who just gave birth to her first child, and her husband broke up with her. He ran away with another woman, and she is trying to handle this. And this is the story of how she's handling it. Marian Case is centering a lot of her books around situations that lead to women empowerment and fulfillment, but start off awful. So this is the first book in the series. It was very interesting to read, and I really liked the line and how it solved itself. Although it had some weak moments, and the weak moments that I didn't like so much is that the inner thought line of Claire, it was sometimes very long. Like, it was funny, it was amusing, but sometimes she just rambled on about things that weren't that important to the story to take like 3/4 of a page. You could just make it shorter. But this is something that is very much improved in the next books. And I'm just gonna remind you that my favorite of her is Rachel's Holiday by Marian Case, and I'm probably gonna film that video next, so you'll get the sense of what I'm talking about with these books. So last but not least, what I actually read in the end of the month, and it was totally awesome, was the Witch's Protection program by Michael Cash. And that was a really cool book. Let me show you the cover. So here's how the cover of Witch's Protection program looks. It's written by Fillip Cash, as I said. I got this book on NetGalley, and that's the first time I'm getting a book on NetGalley, so it was an amazing start. this is a really cool story about a guy who gets transferred to a different unit of a police, like secret police, because he kind of messed up his task in the regular force where he was, so he switched to a new force, and that's basically where he's being told that witches exist. And the program is intended for a protection of the witches. So of course the main character totally flips out, and the story is really funny. It's totally well written, but it's kind of short, so it's a short and very cool read. And it's really awesome. I mean, there's steampunkish looking weapons that can neutralize a witch. The witches talk in rhymes, rhymed spells. It's so magical. They can shapeshift, which is also great for witches. And the characters are really witty. And I really like that they were totally different. I mean, there's this good cop, bad cop scenario in there. There's a girl who needs saving but doesn't want to be saved, which is kind of really cool, you know. There's this witch that wants to dominate the world. It makes for a good story, and I don't know if it's gonna be a new series yet or not, but I am so totally impressed with this book. After a bit of a thought, I give it 4 stars because it has some potential, of course, and it's not my favorite ever, but it's very enjoyable. And I also know that you can buy it on Kindle, I think, for like $1 or something, which is totally a steal. And I read it in that format, and it's very well written and very well good looking. So yeah, if you have the chance, definitely give it a go, because it's really cute, it's really funny. That was it for my October wrap-up video. Thank you very much for watching. Have a happy Halloween. Don't get tricked, just give out the treats and have a great day. Bye bye!